Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as we welcome the 57th Governor of the great state of New York, Governor Kathy Hochul.
Welcome, and today, at long last, we flip the switch and turn on the future of power generated by the winds of change. A long time ago, there was a song called Winds of Change. Are you familiar with it? Today, we're making an incredible milestone of progress for New York, the completion of the very first of its kind. Not just for New York, not just for the Northeast, but for all of America, an historic green energy project, wind turbines to power the future. Let's give that a round of applause. Secretary Deb Haaland, the Secretary of the Interior, has joined us all the way from Washington or wherever she's traveling all over America. We are honored to have her. It was almost exactly 2 years ago. Now, how likely is that? Projects on time. It's extraordinary. We're here to celebrate that as well. But 2 years ago, we came here to celebrate and had shovels in our hands and talk about the groundbreaking. And what a day that was. So, Madam Secretary, welcome. You are here. Welcome in the state of New York anytime. We are grateful for your public service. Let's give a round of applause. Our federal partners, Noah Bohm, the Permitting Council, we thank them as well. Ed Romaine, our county executive. Take a bow, Ed Romaine. Way to play it. You don't have to be there from the beginning, but you get the credit at the end. So well done, Mr. County Executive. And to Steve Ballone, who was here from the very beginning, we thank him for his support. And the whole legislature, the county legislature, I thank them as well. Also, supervisors. Now, I spent 14 years, town board member. Ultimate respect for our supervisors. Let's give Kathy Burke-Gonzalez a round of applause. And the town board members from East Hampton and Southampton, you had to make some tough decisions. This was not an easy lift for you because you certainly heard from a lot of constituents. I understand that pressure, and I commend you for powering through all that and making sure that we could be here today. So a round of applause for our local elected officials as well. But you need business partners. Joe Nolan, the CEO of Eversource. Thank you, Joe. It's extraordinary to have you here today to mark this momentous occasion. And Troy Patton, representing the CEO of Orsted. I want to thank Orsted and all of our great friends there as well. Members of my administration, our Secretary of State, Robert Rodriguez, Doreen Harris, the President and CEO of NYSERDA, and Justin Driscoll, the President and CEO of NYPA. These are my power people. Let's give them a round of applause. Friends from labor. Anybody from labor in the room? Maddie Arasich and Ryan Stanton. Thank you, thank you, thank you. When you want something done, you called men and women of labor, and what an extraordinary credit to them for what they did. This is unprecedented. There was not a playbook for this in apprentice school, I guarantee it. And everybody had to deal with new technologies and new challenges to go out 35 miles from the shore and get something done that is extraordinary. So thank you, not just labor here in the state of New York, but throughout the Northeast and partners of ours. Also, this great institution, New York State's flagship institution, Stony Brook University, thank you for welcoming us here. The South Fork Wind Project is nothing short of a triumph of New York ambition. It's truly a momentous occasion for this clean energy announcement, and I'm proud to state that the rest of the nation is watching. This is how you get it done. And working closely with the Biden administration, the president made this one of his top priorities when he was elected back in 2020, that he wanted to push hard, push this nation toward a greener, more sustainable future. And I want to give him a lot of credit for putting his mark on what is happening here today. And this will serve as a beacon for the rest of the nation, a statement to everyone of what is possible. And this will be emulated time and time again. It's never been more important for us as New Yorkers to lead as we build a greener tomorrow for our children. As I said, we broke ground 2 years ago. I said we have a responsibility to reimagine and realize a clean energy future. Everyone on Long Island knows what I'm talking about. It was just earlier this year, the county executive, Supervisor Richie Schaefer, we visited Overlook Beach. And we saw the damage there, not just there, but Gilgo Beach and Fire Island. All the beaches that were absolutely battered with the force of Mother Nature and the waves that came crashing and destroying all the work that had been done to restore the beaches after Hurricane Sandy. This is what we're so vulnerable to. This is what we're exposed to. And we saw that devastation. Angry surges that are getting more and more frequent. Water temperatures are soaring. How disruptive is this to our nautical ecosystems, but also the effect it has on the ferocity of the winds and the waves. Sea levels are climbing, certainly dangerous when we're surrounded by water here. And it seems to me, as someone who goes to all the disasters in person, we seem to be getting these 1,000-year events every year or so. So it's no mystery what's causing this. People are finally woken up to what has been happening. Others have talked about this for years. You think about Al Gore sounding the warning years and years and years ago. I was a young staffer on Capitol Hill right after Jimmy Carter left town. And Jimmy Carter had all kinds of incentives to stimulate the growth of the clean energy future. Tax credits for wind and solar and all kinds of ideas people thought were too crazy, and they were repealed by the Ronald Reagan budget. And we stood together as young staffers and said, what's going to happen now? Because Jimmy Carter had envisioned a future free from being strangled by fossil fuels, especially when we were so reliant on OPEC in the Middle East. None of you are old enough to remember that, but I do. You could only get gasoline on every other day based on your license plate number. Does anybody remember that? We said we'll never go back to that. And we went backwards. Just imagine our world today. If we had stayed on the path that we had been put on, that this would have been happening even 30 years ago, 40 years ago. But we'll make up for lost time now. I don't want to get depressed over this. But I want to make sure that we have that sense of urgency that some had back then, but others did not. I hope there's a collective sense of urgency around this now. And the past leaders have failed. When people proposed taking steps forward, people denied the science, and we are only taking baby steps. But under my watch as the governor of the greatest state in the nation, nothing will stand in our way. New York has some of the most ambitious energy goals in the nation. 70% of our electricity from renewable sources by 2030. Zero emissions electric grid by 2040. An 85% reduction, statewide reduction in climate pollution by 2050. Now I'm going to stick around long enough to make sure we get it done. In helping to achieve these goals, it is impossible to overstate how transformative the South Fork Wind project is. Again, the first utility-scale project of its kind in America. Numbers will tell the story. 12. That's how many offshore turbines Ørsted and Eversource have built. How many homes? 70,000 homes to start will be powered with the power of these turbines. 60,000. That's the number of the 6 million tons of carbon emissions, the equivalent of 60,000 cars on our road that will be eliminated. 60,000 cars. Imagine that. And 10,000, my favorite numbers, is the number of jobs New York is creating to support the offshore wind industry alone. And just to brag one more time, one more number is 0. That's how many other completed projects exist in the United States. So it's the very first American-made offshore substation, quite a feat. The first offshore wind farm to use American-made and a crude service operations vessel. And this future-defining project, as I mentioned before, was made by union workers. And they have had a hand in every great infrastructure achievement in our history. And I want to thank them for being part of this commitment and making sure we have the skilled workforce. Maddie Arasich is here. We talk about this all the time. Maddie and our friends here at the building trades and the Long Island Building Association, all of the people who are understanding how important this is. If we don't have people with the right training, we won't be able to accomplish more. So it's that specialized skill. It's what we have to do to make sure that everyone has that opportunity. And I want to diversify this workforce. I want to see more women on the sites. I want to see more people of color on the sites. And Maddie knows that. And Ryan Stanton knows that as well. So we're investing money. I can't magically make it happen. We're investing $200 million in workforce development to train New Yorkers for the jobs of tomorrow, starting on our SUNY campuses to prepare students for careers in offshore wind. And we're touting that today. We're going to stand up a brand new domestic supply chain. You know why? Because I don't ever want to be vulnerable to geopolitical concerns or supply chains or ships that are jammed up in ports. I'm not predicting another COVID event, but my God, we learned some lessons. And we have to make sure we build them here in America and build them here in the state of New York. And that's how we can be that regional hub of offshore wind manufacturing. And to make that happen, we're investing $500 million in state money to build port and supply chain infrastructure. But also, as I mentioned, this was a local effort, built by the community for the community. And the workers you just saw in that video a couple of minutes ago, like Sean Johnson, the turbine technician, grew up right here in Amityville and is building a better future for his daughter. Matt Laub, the foreman from Long Island, who's a union guy through and through. Alexandra Fernandez, another worker, union worker, iron worker. My uncle was an iron worker. I had uncles, I had plumbers, I had steel workers. I had it all in my family. So I have a lot of regard for the hard work they do, the training that goes into it, and she grew up right here in Southampton. And so also because such an important part of this is conservation and its environmental impact, always at the top of our priorities. I'm so glad to see Jessica James has joined us, and another champion was Judith Hope, who got a lot of this going. Remember Judith Hope? She's a great friend of ours, Judith Hope. When she was supervisor, Jessica's right down the road in Montauk, and I just want to thank all the people who made this happen. Again, the town board, the local town board, is so critical to this. And I want to give everyone who played a role in this at the local level, local government, county government, please stand up and take a round of applause. Come on, stand up. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you all. And in a couple moments, when we flip this switch, it really works. In just a few minutes, we'll officially bring the turbines online, and I assure you it'll have national ramifications. But I know no one will ever forget the community behind this, the communities that stood up and said, we can get this done, we can get this done. So that is also what we're celebrating, is that communities taking that step forward into the future. This is all part of New York's emergence into the 21st century. But again, as New Yorkers, we just not satisfied with emerging, we want to dominate. And so investments like this are a statement of our intent. The gauntlet is being thrown down to emphasize that New York is ready to meet this moment and confront any challenges that stand in our way. My friends, this is just the beginning, just the beginning. More projects coming down the pipeline, more grounds to break and ribbons to cut. And when it comes to offshore wind, we've just scratched the surface. Together, we're going to build a New York that innovates and thinks dynamically and creatively and is proactive about addressing the future. And again, lastly, who are we doing this for? We're doing it for future generations. They'll look back on this day, just like I look back on those dark days when we had the opportunity to seize the future back in the 1980s, and we did not. Others will look back at this day in 2024 and say, we did. We did it. We were undaunted. We were fearless. We marched into the future and said, because we have no choice. Mother Nature is not waiting for us. She is making sure we hear her loud and clear. Stop assaulting our earth. And with this move today, we are doing our part, an extraordinary part, in leading that future for future generations. And I want to thank everyone, because nothing matters as much as this. Thank you, my friends, and congratulations. With that, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a high honor for me to present the Secretary of the Interior, Deborah Haaland, and I want to thank her for, again, her passion for these projects and her strong will, and the work with the Biden administration is one of the reasons we're here today and getting this done. Secretary Haaland.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Governor. Thank you for your leadership. for your inspiration to women leaders around the world. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm very proud to be here on the ancestral homelands of the Shinnecock Nation, also the current homelands of the Shinnecock Nation. And acknowledge the ancestors as our original stewards of these lands, which essentially gave us all an opportunity to be here today. Also acknowledge that we have tribal leaders here with us today, and I'm very happy and honored to be in your presence. Hello, everyone, and what a beautiful day to celebrate the progress we continue to make on our clean energy future. I remember being here with Governor Hochul, the Long Island Power Authority, and members of the Interior team, as she said exactly almost 2 years ago, to this day, as we broke ground on the South Fork Wind project. What I said then, and I'll say it again today, is that this is another momentous step in our work to create a robust and sustainable clean energy future. We wouldn't be here without the great work of so many people at the Department of the Interior, within the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management and Bureau of Safety and Environmental Enforcement, BESSE. We call them BOEM and BESSE. BOEM Director Elizabeth Klein and BESSE Director Kevin Sly are here with us today, and I thank them both for being such passionate leaders and colleagues of mine. If you could raise your hands, Liz and Kevin. There you go, right in the front. And also want to give a shout out to our federal partners who have been lockstep with us to make sure this got done, from NOAA and DOE. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Janet, for being here. We are so thrilled to have the state of New York as a partner in that work. By joining with us to establish this most ambitious offshore wind goals in the nation, you are helping to create the current excitement in the market that we see today. And your dedication and leadership is paying off. Today we celebrate the South Fork project, which will deliver 130 megawatts of wind energy right here to Long Island. That's enough power for more than 70,000 homes and businesses. Creating good-paying union jobs is a priority for the Biden-Harris administration, and creating jobs that advance our clean energy projects is a win-win for everyone. When President Biden took office, he tasked our administration with a call to create 30 gigawatts of offshore wind by 2030. Every day, the Interior Department is answering that call and moving rapidly to create a robust and sustainable clean energy economy that creates jobs, boosts local economies, and helps address environmental injustice. We know that a thriving offshore wind industry will drive economic opportunity up and down the Atlantic coast, in the Gulf of Mexico, and in Pacific waters. Indeed, South Fork is one of 6 commercial-scale offshore wind projects we have approved during this administration. And there are more on the way. We're also incentivizing a sustainable offshore wind supply chain and labor force through innovative lease stipulations that promote domestic supply chain investments, project labor agreements, and engagement with tribal nations, fisheries, and other ocean users. Today is further proof that America's clean energy transition is not a dream for a distant future. It's happening right here and right now. The success of this project also underscores the importance of President Biden's Investing in America agenda. The Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Inflation Reduction Act are making crucial investments in clean energy development. They are powering our efforts to power America, working in close coordination with local, state, and elected officials, tribes, and conservation and industry groups to help ensure we modernize America's infrastructure to last us for generations. I am so proud to join you all today for the historic completion of this project. I can't wait to flip that switch. I am more optimistic than ever about our future and the future that clean energy will bring to all of us, to our communities, and it's something that all of us should be very proud of. Thank you all so much for joining us on this momentous day, and with that, I'm very proud to turn it over to Suffolk County Executive Ed Romaine.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Governor, for your leadership on this. We live on an island. I see the damage that is done from the rising tides, rising sea. I see climate change. I see this as our answer to a better, greener, cleaner future. Your leadership is deeply appreciated, and I am deeply honored to have our Secretary of the Interior here. Spend some time and read about this lady's history. I think you'll be very impressed by our Secretary of the Interior. I look out and I see many of my colleagues from local government, not only our town supervisor, but some of our county legislators, our town council people. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your leadership. I see our friends in labor. I see our friend from LIA there, hiding in the back there. We're all together in this. Before I was supervisor, I had the pleasure for the last 12 years to be supervisor of Brookhaven Town, which is by size the largest in the state and by population the second largest. I am so happy for today because it will give me a guidepost for the next wind project, which is Sunrise Wind. Which we have welcomed with open arms. There was no lawsuits, no controversy, nothing. And that will provide 990 megawatts of power. And I'm trying to convince them, and that's landing at Smith Point and going through our town all the way to Holtzville, to land a second one at Shoreham and go down William Floyd to Sunrise all the way out to Comac and bring a second wind project. You will see it happen without controversy, and you will see that we will move to wind. But I cannot thank all those who've supported wind. We need alternative power. And yes, I was alive in the 70s when your license plate determined whether you could get gas or not. I never want to see our nation brought to that point again. By building a renewable energy future, we are doing so much. And I have to say, we benefit from it because their Port of Call, the port of call for the boat is Port Jefferson. And they will be working out of Port Jefferson. And their back offices are in the east of Torquay. And the training center is at our Brentwood Community College. This is all great for Suffolk. And we will work with our local officials and our unions and our community to build a renewable future. You know, when I get up here and speak, you know what I think of? I think of my 3 grandchildren. I look in their eyes. Because this is about the future. This is about the future of our country and where we're going and what type of future we want. We want renewable energy. We want to fight climate change. We want to do the things that are right for this country. So that has no label that says Republican or Democrat. You know what it says? American. We're all American in this together. We will all work to save our country and lead it forward. God bless you, Governor, Secretary, our supervisor from East Hampton, and those in private industry that make this happen. Thank you so much. Let's go, America. And Billy Oglin, who's a good friend. Let me introduce the supervisor of East Hampton, Kathy Burke-Gonzalez. Please come up. Great supervisor. Come on up.
Good morning, everyone. I'm thrilled to be sharing this moment with New York State Governor Kathy Hochul and United States Secretary of the Interior Deb Haaland. On behalf of the residents of the town of East Hampton, I thank you for your inspiring leadership and your dedicated service, and for joining us here on the East End on this historic event. It takes courage to be the first, to become the first female governor of the great state of New York, to become the first Native American cabinet secretary. It also takes vision to be the first. Vision powered by the understanding of what was at stake for our coastal community. Vision to adopt a policy to meet 100% of annual community-wide energy consumption needs with renewable energy sources by 2030. A policy the East Hampton Town Board adopted in 2014, making us the first municipality in New York State to set such ambitious energy goals. When PSE&G Long Island selected a renewable energy solution to meet the growing electricity demands of the South Fork, that decision set in motion hundreds of public meetings. Misinformation and a well-funded opposition flooded our community. Yet our town board's vision never wavered. Although the question remained, how do we flip the script and inform residents of this incredible opportunity? In the spring of 2019, I had dinner with two of my mentors and fellow climate reality leaders, Linda James and Judith Hope. That night, Judith decided to create Wind with Wind, to bring together a group of local citizen advocates for offshore wind. Wind with Wind joins forces with regional environmental organizations and Long Island labor unions. In 2021, the town board approved the final easement in a vote of 4-1. A year later, construction began. And now East Hampton is the first community in New York State to bring ashore the power of offshore wind. So here's to our success, and to the rest of the country taking note of where courage and vision will take us. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce Troy Patton, Head of Program Execution at Ørsted, and a tremendous partner.
There we go. Thank you and good morning. I'm Troy Patton. Head of Program Execution doesn't exactly roll off the tongue in Ørsted speak, but I'm responsible for engineering, procurement, and construction for our projects here in North America. It's wonderful to be here back on Long Island to celebrate the completion of construction of South Fork. It's great to have 3 straight days of bluebird weather out there and a little bit of warmth here in March. I'm proud to have served in the U.S. Navy. I served on board an aircraft carrier in the Pacific and the Med, and a submarine on oceans all over the world. And working in offshore wind back for Ørsted gives me the opportunity to return to the ocean and do something that I really think is important on this mission to mitigate the effects of climate change. We've heard a little bit about that today. I think anybody who walks and wanders on the beach after a storm understands the need for what we are doing here. The accomplishment we're celebrating today is an important step towards this mission that we're focused on. We're making history for New York, we're making history for America and for the offshore wind industry here in the U.S. Governor Hochul, I want to thank you for your leadership. You've been a steadfast champion of offshore wind, and this project wouldn't have happened without your leadership, so thank you for that. As you said, and for you to say it is one thing, I'll say New York's always been at the forefront of innovation and progress, and your agencies have been really first and doing the hard things. This is hard. It's very hard to go first. define the rules, how things are going to be built, and what to do. And our teams worked really tirelessly to get it right, and I feel like we got it right here with South Fork as a precursor to what's to come. There's no more fitting place for America's first commercial-scale offshore wind farm than right here in New York. It's a long list of state agencies that helped get us here. LIPA awarded the power contract way back in 2017. Thank you, Tom Falcone, for your leadership and for this support. Also at the federal level, Secretary Haaland, it's been said you were here 2 years ago. That's important because here we are delivering on that promise that we made to the community of Southampton, to Long Island, to the state of New York, and to the country that we would get this done. Here we are 2 years later delivering that. So thank you, Secretary Haaland. Director Klein, your agency really has broken new ground in helping us bring this to life and show the way for the rest of the industry on how to do this and do it right. Director Sly, it was great to run into you this morning. I reminded you that I was with your team a year and a half ago in one of those Gulf states not to be named, where we were building the offshore substation that is now offshore delivering power to New York. So it's great to be here 2 years later and celebrate that with you and your team. Permitting Council Executive Director Baytal, thank you for the support there, and Administrator Coit, your agency with Marine Fisheries really made sure that we were doing the right things and that what we did was build a wind farm that can be built sustainably and repeatably on the Northeast coast. The Army Corps of Engineers, a vast team of professionals there, played a critical role in also helping us bring this wind farm to life and do it in a responsible way. Our partnership with the Biden administration has been instrumental in getting us to this point and to the finish line. We also wouldn't be here, as is mentioned. You know, we have a lot of planners, we have a lot of folks making sure that we're compliant, but then you need the boots on the ground and you need labor from our partners at Eversource, lots of folks at Ørsted and labor up and down the coast to get us here. We wouldn't be here without that dedicated focus. Our supply chain partners helped us blaze this trail. The construction crews, local union workforce, really industry-leading project labor agreements, both onshore and offshore, helped us get here and helped us train a new American workforce on renewable energy and how to get offshore. The community of East Hampton has been said, thank you for your leadership and the support. I know it's hard. Being first is always hard, but I think we've shown the benefits here, and I'm proud to walk the streets of East Hampton and go get coffee this morning and tell people what we're doing and why we're here and why we're dressed in a suit in the first thing in the morning at 7 o'clock to grab coffee. Before I conclude, and I'm wrapping up, I have to thank Ørsted's own Jen Garvey. Jen actually introduced me to this project when I joined the company 3 years ago. She's been here since it was just a concept. She walked me out to Beach Lane the very first time I went out there. I didn't have a hat on. She was smarter than me as usual and had a hat and gloves and was ready to go. But without you, Jen, this project wouldn't have happened, so thank you for your leadership. In conclusion, New York's clean energy future is taking place right now. Just 2 weeks ago, the state announced a preliminary award to our Sunrise Wind project, which we will build. It's going to be 7 times larger than South Fork Wind. We are ready to build on this foundation. We will create more jobs. We will create more local supply chain and community investments and lots more clean, renewable energy for decades to come for the state of New York. Thanks again and congratulations. And now I'll turn it over to our anchor man, CEO of Eversource, Joe Nolan.
Well, when you're the 6th one to get up at the podium, there really isn't much that I can tell you that you haven't already heard. But what I want to tell you is that I am so grateful to Secretary Haaland and Governor Hochul for their leadership. We met significant headwinds, no pun intended, as we began to do this project. And the community has really came together. I was out on Beach Lane, I walked Beach Lane, and one of the things that we told the people of East Hampton is that I promise you we will leave this community better than when we found it. And I can tell you today I feel very strongly that that is what took place. But that took place for, thank you. Some of the key players and folks that I really want to recognize. I want to recognize Billy Hoggan, I'd like him to stand up, and folks from the Hoggan team, and then folks from Elecnor who came out here as well. And then the one last person I want to recognize is my former colleague Lee Olivier, who's here. And Lee is the one that in 2016 was the one that actually procured the lease out on the ocean that really made all of this possible. So Lee really, James Brown may be the godfather of rock and roll, but I like to say that Lee Olivier is the godfather of offshore wind in America. So to Lee Olivier, thank you. I will tell you, we started building this wind farm in the fall, and you couldn't pick a worse time, to be in New England in the fall trying to build a wind farm. And I just kept calling Troy up and saying, listen, don't let the workers know we have all these holidays coming up. So we had holidays run from November all the way through the holiday season and New Year's. And I will tell you that those workers that were here, now these wind turbines that are behind me, you need to understand that they're over 800 feet tall. They go in two sections, so they're 400 feet at a time, and they get brought on a barge one by one, and they get brought out, each wind turbine one at a time on a barge, and they go out to our lease area. And I can't tell you the number of times that we'd get to the lease area with the barge, and the water and the waves were so extraordinary that we had to get back into port. But I will tell you that nothing stood in the way of the construction of those 12 wind turbines. And I was very, very proud. And we would get updates every single day. We had one day in which it was so violent out there, we made 4 attempts to rendezvous with the vessel, the installation vessel. And the fenders on the vessel were actually punctured. So we had to pull away. We had to send for some additional fenders, harnesses, things that you just can't imagine that can take place out in the water. When you're 35 miles out to sea. And what I'm so proud of is that this was a project that actually was 2 years behind another project that was supposed to take place. And we sealed through all these headwinds with the leadership of this state, with the community, and I am so proud of that. And today, when I got up this morning, I was so excited to come here today and flick the switch for the first in the United States offshore wind farm. This is extraordinary, and you all should be very, very proud. I mean, you all were heckling me 2 years ago when we began talking about the Red Sox and the Bruins, so I know my place. I'm not going to bring up any sports teams, but I am standing in the way of powering East Hampton and Wainscott, so I am going to cease and stop, and I'm going to welcome all my colleagues up here so that we can turn the switch on for New York. So please come up. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back our speakers as they flip the switch to power up the turbines. Please feel free to join along for the countdown.